goes back to what we create and how we think. And this month is going to be pushing us to do that. And towards the end of the month, it might be getting straining again. The strain will come back.
Hello, fellow flames. In case we haven't met, my name is Dr. Harmony, and I will help you live fearless, live loved, and live free. Today, I have Tatiana with us, and she's going to cover the July astrology report and give us an energy update for what we can expect. And she already kind of warned me that there's a lot. So what I will say is buckle up, buttercup, because that's how the energy is going to roll. So Tatiana, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Harmony, for inviting me again to your show. This is very exciting always to come and give you the feeling in the air astrologically. And this month, it's a lot. I was preparing this. I made 3 pages of notes. It's a lot of changing energies. And we have been coming from a month of probably a lot of relationship issues, lots of relationship challenges, new beginnings, things starting, a lot of movement, with that Aries energy of last month that was so prominent, and trying to find balance between resting and taking care of oneself, self-care, nurturing, and then pushing forward. It feels like we come from that. And the month of July starts with, we start with the full moon we're standing with the new moon in Cancer. That's where we kind of start the month off. And there's a lot of tension at the beginning of the month. And this tension can come from like anywhere. It could be because we are feeling a little bit disconnected. Maybe there could be false informations, maybe some faulty perception of what's happening in our lives. There might be a lot of like wishful thinking, but not necessarily connected to reality. So there could be a lot of confusion in information as well. So what is being said to us might not be necessarily true in our lives, in the world. There could be also things happening where anger comes out, rage, anger. It's a little bit when the spark hits the dynamite and kaboom, and then hits and right? And that can bring 2 things. Either there is something happening in the world or in our lives that pushes us to the edge of anger and maybe something threatening our safety. That could come as well. Something that's threatening our sense of home, our sense of safety and vulnerability. So there could be anger, even pain, some kind of confusion. All of that could be a little bit in the mix at the beginning of the month. So whatever is happening in your life or in the world, and I feel and sense this is connected to a collective energy, because Pluto, and I'm going to talk a little bit technical, Pluto, the planet of death, rebirth, transformation, deep evolution through complete regeneration, it's going to be very active, and it's going to be talking to Mars, the planet god of war, anger, drive, will. And these 2 planets are going to be in conflict a little bit. So this is when destruction could happen. Extreme anger, bursts of anger and repressed emotions. So the best thing to do starting this month is whatever is happening around us, to always breathe. I think breath, this is what's coming to now. Breath is how we can channel a little bit of that excitement or nervous energy or rage, and also, like exercise, sports. Just instead of like, lashing out at somebody or the world, go for a big hike, go to the gym, punch a bag, do something that will give Mars, that energy, some movement, because it could potentially be not pretty. And again, it could be connected to the world stage, to things that are happening that makes us angry. So yeah, that seems to be something that could also be painful emotionally, that there could be maybe in our world or relationships, we see things that are hurtful come our way. And then what do we do with that? How do we deal with painful emotions? And this is where we use all our tools, our spiritual tools, and make sure we're not spiritual bypassing, because again, we have a little bit of a square, which is a difficult aspect between Neptune, the planet that dissolves everything, that's consciousness, that brings awakening, but it dissolves everything. It's the unity, it's the ocean, and Mercury is the mind. And again, there could be a perception misunderstanding. So, and then that's when we can be a little bit like overconfident that we've got this, and we're not seeing a reality, or we're not seeing where that is coming within us. Why are we angry? Where is this coming from? And is it justified? So again, make sure you're not being duped, or there's double check the information that comes your way, because this is what happens. We can be confused, and stay really level-headed. Take deep breaths before even speaking. Make sure that what you're perceiving is actually real and not imagined, or it's coming from the internet or from some kind of social media that you heard and said, so and so said that, so and so and so, therefore. Now stay really grounded in your actual present moment. Where's your body, where's your breath? So this is a lot of that first week kicking in. So I don't know what's going to happen. You tell me later in the comments. And I feel and sense that there could be something having to do with our resources and our money. It's some things in the air, people. And we've heard this, and if you've heard other astrology reports, something around our financial markets is coming down the pipe. Some major changes, maybe there could have been some losses in the past few weeks that you feel like there's difficulty with money or values. And then entering July, we might have big disruptions in the way we get our resources. And as Mars enters Taurus, which is again the sign that rules the body, our resources, the values, what we eat, there might be a need to protect those resources, because Mars protects, right? And it's also the energy with Pluto destroying things. Maybe our resources get destroyed. That could be one option. Or maybe there is a rehole in our resources, and we need to get creative and make sure we are getting our resources from somewhere, because there could be some kind of threat to our resources. And this is not to scare anybody. It's more to make sure you're aware of, and you can value really all that you have. I think this is the time where we need to start considering, again, minimizing, less is more. This is the best I can tell you, is less is more at this time. It's not the time for overindulgence, splurging, go to Costco and buy everything. No, it's that's not it. It's about being more mindful about what we have. Of course, if you have a garden and you're planting, this is a beautiful way to channel that energy into the ground, you know. So this is a great time for really getting your hands dirty. And even if you don't have a garden, maybe you have a community garden somewhere, or access to some creative way also of getting your resources. We might need to not necessarily rely on everything outside ourselves and be a little bit more self-reliant at this time. So I'm just giving you a heads up. There could be some difficulties there. And I don't want to be like the party pooper and not the bringer of the bad news. It's not about that. It's about, you know, taking responsibility also for your own well-being. Harmony, what do you think about, what do you sense about this energy kicking off the first week of July?
So what's coming to me, and of course I've experienced this like always, and other people I see are in similar situations, and that is that we're really being put in a position to trust ourselves, to go back to the basics, and that simplicity is the medicine. I was even told that a couple of days ago for myself, having a reading with someone that gave me a reading, and that coming into a place of what feels like physicality, movement, physical strength. You know, the North Node is in Taurus, so we have to kind of like, if we can follow that North Node, kind of, I feel like it will keep us grounded. And where personally, my North Node is Taurus right now. So
You're having a nodal return, so big cycle for you. Wow.
I also feel like it collectively, this is collective, and I also feel like that we're completing a cycle from even, you know, another 7-year cycle, how they say all cycles kind of come to completion. And I look back at my awakening of the whole twin flame journey starting in 2015. And it was much earlier than that, of course. And in fact, I was, you know, going through things like basically my whole life, but really intensely since 2010, and going through that process of another rebirth just in this twin flame journey itself, which is really showing me personally, like all of the things that the belief systems that I connected to, that I created, I should say, like my own belief systems are no longer useful. And it's really, it can be confusing because it creates a lot of dichotomy from who we've been recently. Because for me, I went through the death and destruction and the rebuilding 7 years ago and became somebody totally new and built a life I actually loved, and a life of love and light and liberation and the freedom sense and all these parts that we consider this journey to be. And then it's like, I feel like I went through a deeper, darker night, and I'm not even totally out of that again. And I've already feel like I've went through the fire and the trauma to a level, excuse me, that it's affected me physically for the last year, that for a fact, I can tell that our bodies are now purging this trauma, the past lives. Yesterday, I went to my own chiropractor, and she put me through a past life detox yesterday because of things that I've been going through, and like purging the stuff out of our physical space and our physical bodies. We've done it in the spiritual realm. Now it's time to get busy and take action. But on the flip side of that, it's very confusing on what action to take, because of what we have learned to be one way and what we're learning to be a new way, and then deciding which way to turn. And that's why we're having to trust, really go deep and trust. But a key component in that is surrender. Because the way I want to move is the way I've moved in the last 7 years, that was exactly what I needed to do in those last 7 years that is not serving me now. And it feels a little bit like it's pulling me out of alignment to do the things that maybe I don't want to do or want to experience. And it feels so much more comfortable in that alignment, but it's actually the opposite. So when you're actually in alignment, you're not comfortable. It's time for change, time for growth. And if you're not growing, then you're basically dying.
Oh, absolutely. And well, all of it is an evolution. And all these cycles are here to give us like the growth process. It's a spiral, and that's why we repeat things, and it seems like, oh, but we already went through this. But again, because it's always growing, like a little plant going like this towards the sun. And you said something that about, you know, the beliefs and how you've been changing your belief system. And I actually wrote something here that is very powerful. I felt like I need to write this because of, like, in the second week, we might be confronted with these kinds of things of what we believe is what we create, literally the reality. And I wrote, what I believe, I create. This comes also in Spanish, which is my mother tongue. The words I believe and I create is the same. Yo creo, I believe. Yo creo, I create. Can you, it's, and this comes from like the Latin roots. So there's some kind of wisdom in that. and we will be invited to review those thoughts. I think the second week we might be having feelings of needing to be more independent, feeling like we need to be autonomous and free and liberate ourselves from something. Maybe it is the matrix or whatever, you know, the illusion that we live under, the mechanisms of control. And you know what, I would say stay away from social media as much as you can. I just feel like that's not going to be helpful this month. And this is a time to be more connected to a true spiritual liberation, because what happens also with maybe difficult crises, which we might be looking at the, you know, end of June, beginning of July, you know, there could be major crises, and sometimes the only way to awaken is through a big crisis. Sometimes that's just the only way, and we need to go, okay, we need to redefine our world. We need to redefine how we are being as a species and how we are being as spiritual beings. Are we compassionate enough? Are we really wanting a humanity that thrives? Or do we need more destruction and pain until we get it? I feel there's this kind of last push, you know, there's more squeeze this month. There's a little bit more of a squeeze. And we can choose. And if you're already in the boat of I already chose, then you're not even going to live any of this. And this is when you go self-reliant, independent, more sovereign in your own being, knowing that the divine is the only thing that really drives everything. So that surrender you were talking about. It is very important to stay grounded and in reality and make decisions more. And I don't want to be like negative in this sense, but it's like expect the worst and hope for the best kind of scenario. Because when things around us are could be very difficult and there's a crisis, we need to stay very present and very grateful with what we do have, the glass half full. And these are the things that will make us move through the difficulties, whatever they are in your life or in our life or in everybody's lives as a collective. We will be also helped by our minds being more focused on maybe daily tasks and grounded things. This is because Mercury, the mind, again, will be aspected or talking to Saturn which wants structure, common sense, long-term planning. So I feel there is a long-term planning with this energy, the second week, where you could maybe start planning for the long term, how you're gonna do life. As we come into this awakening, as we come into maybe realizations that what we believed before was life, it's different now. And we have dropped those beliefs, and we know that we create the reality we believe in. So what is that reality? And when we are focused and use our common sense as well, that's why I'm saying stay away from social media and what everybody says everywhere, because that usually can get very messy, and come back to yourself. Focus on your daily tasks and on creating something, and also I wrote, do contemplation practices. Contemplation practices is observing either things outside yourself, or even better, observe your thoughts. What am I thinking? Because if I create what I think and I believe, then that's what I'm going to see. So the contemplation would be, I notice. Yeah, I'm always thinking that, I don't know, people are out to get me. Maybe that's the thought. Or I'm not good enough, or I can't have this, or abundance is not for me. Like whatever thought it is that you're like bringing. Neil Donald Walsh, in his book Conversations with God, which is one of my favorite books, says there's something called the sponsoring thought. The sponsoring thought is the thought behind the thought. It's not like, oh yeah, I believe this. No, it's really the subconscious thought that makes you act and say things. And I think this contemplation practice is about finding the sponsoring thought and being very honest with it. And this is a very good way of using the energy of Mercury and Saturn to focus on how we're using our thoughts to create reality. This would be, for me, the best way to go about crisis mode, to go about conflict, because crisis, it might be there and it might be big. So what do we choose? And this will be also a time, the second week, where our relationships might be getting a little bit more solid, more stable. This is a good time to make more commitments to the people you're with. And there might be good alliances of people, friends, communities that are working together and making long-lasting friendships. This is a good time even to like tie the knot, because Venus is going to trine Saturn. And when Saturn comes into a harmonious aspect with Venus, it means that relationships can be more serious. So if you've been thinking about it, and this is a great week to do it, it's the second week of July, it's a good time to say, yes, I'm committed to this. Or maybe you can do a little ceremony for redoing your vows to something that you have committed to, that you want this long lasting relationships, friendships. It's also a good time to be smart with your money. Whenever we talk Venus, we talk value and money. I mean, money is value, right? It's what we value. And it's not necessarily money. It could be also the resources. We've been talking about resources. Right now, Venus is in Gemini. So it could be like looking for different options. Gemini is curious about, well, if we've done it this way, how about that or that or that or something different? Maybe exploring different relationships, or the way we relate to money, or the way we relate to resources. These are all possibilities with that energy, when there is like, well, maybe there's other options. And when there's new things, well, how do we relate to these new things? And can we make it a thing, like a system? This is why I feel that there might be something coming down the pipe with the financial system, maybe new ways of exchanging money. Maybe there would be new currencies coming up. We might feel like crypto, or some kind of cryptocurrencies coming up, or some disruptions. or even just bartering. I don't know. Is be curious and be open-minded to explore possibilities in relationships and in values. This is a little bit that invitation, and maybe something will come that stands the test of time. That's one option. So that's like a little bit our second week. Yeah, good time to make good solid alliances, I would say. What do you think about this second week? Make notes of which week is what. There will be some days that are going to be very specific, but yeah.
So I'm just reading into the energy that you're referring to for that second week. And when it comes to value, what really comes to mind is definitely like when it comes to, say, money, intimacy, value of self, value of anything, really. I feel like the core of that is going back to the value of what you see inside of yourself, that your own resources that you can use at maximize them. So it's a good time to reevaluate. And I'm doing the same thing. In fact, I'm doing it kind of early as we record this before we get there, because I always feel like I'm a few steps ahead. I have all of these ideas, all these programs, all these things that are trying to birth. But we can, like we said at the beginning of this, we can be all over and try to get all of these things done. That's really like overwhelming. But on the flip side of it, it's about what is the maximum impact you can make and the greatest bang for your buck to show up in a place of value and service, but for it to be a harmonic exchange in a way that you're not only giving, but you're learning how to receive. So, it's really easy to deplete yourself in trying to do too much. And I will be the first to tell you that's what I tend to do, because I have so many things that want to birth. And I kind of like run around trying to catch those. And that's one of the patterns I think that I'm being shown is not going to work anymore. It's just not. I don't have the capacity that I used to have to keep up with it, for one. And for two, it's really just boiling down to what can be the most harmonic exchange in your time and your resources. So time, talent, health, and wealth. That's a book I was writing back when I started this journey. It was Personal Freedom Unleashed, The Secret to Unlocking Time, Talent, Health, and Wealth. And to me, like, all of those things are resources. And so be careful where you plant your seeds, because you want them on fertile ground. And also keep in mind, you don't plant tomatoes and get corn. So you need to know that what you sow, you reap.
Wow, that is such a wise thing. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, so if you plant tomatoes, don't expect corn. Yeah. You said something very beautiful about resources, because resources is precisely, it's not just money. And if we are able to shift our consciousness from like money is the only way we can get things and do exchanges with others and have that harmonic exchange, then maybe we might be missing the mark. So it's good to start exploring other ways of like, what am I resourceful with? Maybe I do have a talent that I can exchange for something with somebody. Maybe I have more time, then I can be helpful and in service to somebody that might need that as a resource, because at this moment they need that. And then they might give me something in return. Again, it's like I plant something and I have apples and then you have pears. Let's exchange that, right? And this is the time to do that in your life, and however your life looks like. I know that for me, this is really very literal what's happening, and I'm saying literal, like what's happening in the astrology, because I moved to a farm and I'm with people and we are creating a network of working together, and we are farming, literally, like having food come out of the ground to be more self-sustaining. And we want to be able to be more self-sustaining. And we do our spiritual practices where we ground, we ask for our higher guidance, and that's the reality I'm creating. And I'm focusing on that reality, regardless of what's going on in the world. And yes, the danger is to be a little bit like in unicorn land. So I know that it's important to know that we're still in a world with a lot of difficulty, and we might be facing difficulty, and it's not just to escape into La La Land, because it's not about that. It's about consciously creating a new way, or a new way of getting your resources and being sovereign and self-sustaining. And if there's any way you can do that, even in your small communities, in your neighborhood, if you live in a building, can you not go and knock on your neighbor's door and say, hey neighbor, maybe we should do like a little building alliance of how we're gonna help each other out. That's the best way to use these energies. Otherwise it could be the opposite. You are threatening me, my home, my and then it creates destruction. And energy is energy, and it depends where we put it. We put it here or there. And the drive we could have, because sometimes passion and anger can bring also change. That's also a way to use the energy. It's like, okay, maybe we just need to get on with it and get off our butts and just do it. And then we're going to have like towards the middle of the month, and we're starting the second part of the month. I think the third week will be a little bit more of a breathing week, a little bit of a breather. And I think it's going to be a journey within, because it's a lot of like the Cancer energy starting to become more present. And Cancer, let me show you the image of the Cancer energy. Okay, this is the image of the Cancer energy.
It's one of my favorite images you've shared before.
Yeah, this is like home, and that little cottage is so warm in there, and it's like is the cosmic mother. It's a sense of safety. So it is the physical home, as it is our spiritual home, as it is our emotional home. You see how this cosmic mother looks at the baby, holding that baby with love, and it's lunar. It's a water sign. It's lunar, so it's deep, and it's not out there. If you know many Cancer people, or if you're a Cancer yourself, Cancer people are very homey. They value their families, the time spent with their families, the reminiscence of the past, the roots, like the lineage. There's a lot about that. And we might be having this third week, maybe coming back to our home, or creating a home, or talking with family members, or reminiscing the reminiscence of the past, the roots, the homeland, the family, maybe having again family gatherings. We might be even talking about that, because Mercury and the Sun are going to be together, and there's going to be this full moon in Capricorn, and at the same time this full moon has the Sun in Cancer and Mercury. So it's about like talking. And there could be also talk about the family woundings, because it is in opposition to Pluto. Again, Pluto bringing the deep traumas, or the dark shadows of our soul. So this is a great time, I'm getting this right now, to do family constellations. If you're still carrying anger with your family members, either your children, your parents, your grandparents, well, this is the great opportunity to heal that. Seek maybe to do some family constellations, or even just gather with your family and talk about it, and be open to sharing where there has been hurt, pain. And guess what? This transforms the relationships. Otherwise, what can happen is just more resentment. We build resentment, and we build anger, and then we create more separation. So how are you going to use the energy? Because there might be the deeply rooted lineage things coming up. It's like when we talk about maybe whole cultures, like First Nations cultures or Black cultures. Like, we could be even talking about that, about how the roots of the roots of the roots of our ancestors have brought so much pain, and how we by talking about it, by bringing light to it, by bringing nurturing and care, this Cancer energy could heal an entire lineage. And if you're watching this video, you are probably one of those people who chose in this incarnation to come to heal lineage and family karma. And because we do it consciously, we can take that on and say, yes, there's been pain. Yes, it's not been easy. Yes, our culture, our family, our lineage has gone through trauma. Our world has suffered, has been pillaged and raped. And what can we do about it? Do we put more anger into it, or do we evolve it into compassion, love, and nurturing and love? So this is what brings back the sense of home and of safety within your heart and within the divine. Otherwise, we can be living in a very unsafe world. And what are we creating? And this is why I think this, starting this third week with this full moon in Capricorn, it's like the seed of that maybe crisis moment of the new moon. This is the time to go, okay, if we're still doing this, then how can we bring this to the light in the full moon? The full moon brings then the light, it's the apex of the energy. And this is where I think most healing can take place. If we talk about it, especially with Mercury, think about it, talk about it. And I also wrote this, finding home in spirit, finding home within. So home is not just my four walls or my family. It's the home that we know we all have in the divine. It's our divine home, because source energy is always home. We are always home. We just kind of forgot that we are. There could be also some sense of emotional overwhelm, because with the Cancer energy, and there could be emotional overwhelm, or talking too much about emotions could steer the waters. And at the same time, that second week, and this is going to be from July 12th to the 17th, I would caution people to get into codependent relationships, or being not safe in self, but looking for safety in another. I would caution you against that, because if we put our safety in somebody else, we're missing the point. And there could be some deceptions afterwards, because Venus is going to be in difficult conversation with Neptune. And we could have this illusion that, oh, finally, I found the partner that's going to save me, or whatever, or I'm finally home with somebody. And then we miss the mark that home is within. And then we are deceived when we see, that we're all still human, and that we have our, bad days. And then later, when this transit passes, we realize, the toilet seat left up and the hair in the shower. And then, oh, this was not as nice as I thought, or this person's not my savior. So in this week, it's important to go back to your own home and safety. And of course, be willing also to connect to the divine, and yes, why not relish in the dream of romance, could be there, or relish in the dream of beautiful relationships, but make sure you're again seeing it for what it is, not for what you want it to be. Because this is the thing, it's the rose-colored glasses, and that is also not necessarily helpful all the time. Not to say that we do not want to create that reality, but there is this, and then there is that, and make sure that it really matches. It's a match of frequency. When you're sure that your inner frequency is matching the outer frequency, we're golden. If you're just delusional, going, yes, I am the most healthy person, but then you're like, I don't know, you have all kinds of gut issues, and this is the wishful thinking, So make sure these things align. So that is a little bit going on this second into third week. And then the third week, we also have a beautiful conversation between the sun, which is our expression, our sense of self, and Neptune. And the sun, it's still July 15th, still in Cancer. And there is an urge for spiritual self-discovery. So again, this is a time, I feel that this week is that time where we can reevaluate, and not to mention that Neptune has gone retrograde. And that's a little bit, mumbo jumbo, astrological mumbo jumbo. But when a planet goes retrograde, it means its influence is no longer so much in the outside world, but in your inner world. So again, the reclaiming of your purpose, the reclaiming of what you are as a spiritual being might be like, coming into your awareness. What are your spiritual values? And this is something that is going to come up again. What are our spiritual values, and what are we truly connected to, spiritually speaking? And that will come with the discovery again of what's the higher purpose of why we're here on the planet. What is it that we are doing here on the planet? This is kind of something that is going to come up again. And that will come coupled with a little bit of an ego death as well, because the sun is going to be opposing Pluto. And when that happens, and especially if you're a Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, or Libra, towards the last days of the sign, this can be like a little bit of a crisis for you. This invitation that you might be put a little bit through a ringer so that you can actually redefine your spiritual values and what you are here to do, not to control others, because you might be experiencing somebody controlling you, or dynamics in rough speech and communications that are not pleasant and like really, and this might be just confronting you to reevaluate everything in your life and your connection to the divine. So that could be coupled with a little bit of a need for an ego death. So Harmony, what do you think about the ego death? I
did a series on this, actually a video or two on the death of the ego. In fact, one of them was entitled The Death of the Ego. So I'm going to make sure they have a link below here so they can also review that, because I feel like personally, that's what I've been going through. And, like I say, a lot of Leos have like a lot of pride, a lot of ego. I've never considered myself to be your typical Leo in those terms, because I've never needed that spotlight. I've always sort of stepped out of things. I think it's because of the way I was raised with my father putting me in a spotlight that was not the spotlight I wanted in. So I ran from the spotlight, and I've had to learn to own my own shine, find my own voice, stand up, show up, and speak up for myself. But also what I would say in that with the death of the ego would be this need to be right or wrong is coming up for people. So I think that is like huge. And I'm learning more humility than I've ever even known possible in my life, to be able to surrender and step back and say, like I keep hearing Mother Teresa say these words, love them anyway. So no matter what is going on in your life, and also knowing that what's going on in your life is your mirrored reflection, but that mirrored reflection could be a direct reflection to something that you attract based on who you are or the experience you need. But I feel like at this stage of the game, that's kind of known. I think going forward, it's going to be about, well, it might be my reflection, but I don't have to keep trying to fix everything. And that need to be the fixer that we're learning to take off of fixing a twin flame. And now we're trying to fix ourselves. We just redirected the energy. That's all. The energy is still there. And it's about, surrendering to the idea that I'm okay the way I am. So love myself anyway is the point.
And also the acceptance of others, not only where they're at. So if they make a choice, whatever their choice is, respect the choice. Let them be.
Mhm.
Things be what
And
they
accepting them is accepting yourself.
exactly. Well, whereas we try to control them and make them and mold them to what we want, then it just creates more of this pain and this like, and as acceptance of all that is even accepting the dark, and even accepting that some people have chosen evolutionary paths that may not be ours. And we need to, like you say, and love them. I don't mean like cuddly love, but the love that says, I accept that you chose that and I will let you be in it. Does it mean that we condone like evil actions?
And I think what we've done a lot
no,
in
it's
the
not that.
spiritual
It's more that
realm
we
is
see
we
that
have
everything
sort of
has a role to play.
created this false illusion
Everything. And when we
that
accept
we
it from
are
that perspective,
getting out of this stuff. And the thing is, we're never going to be out of it in our timelines. It's about how can we find a sense of peace and serenity in the chaos, and to know that it is the chaos that is not like, you know, and myself is like, looks around like all those reflections and all the mirrors and be like, okay, well, if this isn't what I like, what do I got to do to change it? But I think it's about no longer knowing we have to change it. It's about knowing that this is going to exist and how can we navigate it in a new way.
Yes, exactly. And it goes back to what we create and how we think. And this month is going to be pushing us to do that. And towards the end of the month, it might be getting straining again. The strain will come back. So we do all this like revamping, thinking, stabilizing, maybe feeling a more sense of home and stability, or home within. I know that a lot of people have been actually moving homes. I mean, I know I did, and I've heard that many of my friends are moving. And you know, when you're like have a new home, there's this like identity that kind of gets shifted, and you need to find that safe space again. So I feel like that's like towards like July 22nd, there's going to be again this kind of okay, where are we? What's here around me? And be careful with overindulgence. You know, once you're like, okay, now I'm settled, now I'm going to like go and decorate and like spend so much money in decoration that I don't measure. Okay, no, maybe we still need to be cautious, just because the excitement of like, again, it's a great time to redecorate your home, you know, with Venus being in Cancer. Venus enters Cancer and it wants to make the home beautiful, making your space pleasurable, making your inner home safe and beautiful. So it could be your emotional body as well as your physical home. Could be, you know, a space where you feel you want some beauty and you want to feel safe in your space and with the people you're with and your family. So if we do this work correctly, where we shed all the resentments and stuff like that, then it could feel like wherever you are is at home. And it could feel also that the planet, you're at home in the planet. Instead of rejecting the planet, it's like, I'm at home here. And again, you might find the urges to kind of go and overspend and overindulge. And this is because Venus is going to be making a square to Jupiter. And Jupiter is like, yeah, you can have everything. But it's like, oh, wait. Maybe not so, because later on you're going to be paying the credit card debt. So I'm telling you, that week, July 22nd, better not to go too crazy on the splurgy side. Again, make just get what you actually need to make your home beautiful. Maybe use some recycled materials. I don't know. Things, again, be resourceful without necessarily having to rely on the old way, like, you know, we're just gonna go online and buy whatever, you know. Again, you can do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying, you know, keep an eye on your wallet. And well, the last week is where the tension starts mounting again, towards July 25th. This is why I told you at the beginning, this month is full of like, it's a little bit of a roller coaster. There's, okay, the feeling and the sense I have from like July 25th all the way towards like August 10th-ish, or August 15th, it's a time where the energy feels like a rebellious energy. It's the forces of liberation. Ah! It feels like a revolutionary energy, and revolutionary can have many ways of expressing. It can be either a rebellion that is rash, and remember when the in January when after the elections the Trump supporters went into Washington, like stormed the Capitol. Remember? I bet you all do. That's the kind of energy that comes with Saturn square Uranus and Mars. Is like these three are gonna be again. There's some oppression coming again. We've seen this oppression come and go over the past 2 years. And guess what? It's coming again. We're gonna feel again maybe oppressed, shut down. We might feel that there's more regulations, things, anything. I don't know what's going to happen, but the feeling is that we're being oppressed again. When this happened, and this is the last pass, this is it. After this, whatever comes out of that could be either the need to rebel and with Mars is going to be together with Uranus. There is this desire and this force that I'm going to be free no matter what. And what happens with that is that it could create actual revolutions. And a revolution is not necessarily a bad thing, but it depends. If it's rash, if it's just fueled with anger and resentment, and that's the fuel of it, then yes, it can be very destructive. It can be, or if it's a revolution, it could be like, it's like an arts revolution, or like the feminine revolution, or a revolution is when we toss out the things so we can finally break free. And Uranus wants us to break free. The thing with this revolution, and this is where I have no idea what's going to happen, there could be some repression or suppression of information, because there's Mercury is going to be a little bit in the mix as well. So there could be suppression of information and people wanting to speak and being shut, like don't say that, and being cut, like maybe the media suppressing information that's important, so people are gonna have to step up. So this is a little bit of a revolutionary tension. Again, we've seen this over the past 2 years come and go. Well, guess what? Another let's do it again. Another impulse for regeneration and rebirth. And it's important to not be rash. That's the thing. You can be, and I believe that the liberation always happens within. If we free ourselves within us in our beliefs and our thoughts, we don't necessarily have to go and act it out in the world and then just, well, I don't like this, I'm just gonna break it. It's like, well, it's like throwing the baby with the bathwater. And we don't want that. We want to make sure that the liberation, we're moving towards more freedom, and not just out of, anger and, violence, that we just want to throw everything, like the storming of the Capitol. That's that kind of energy, because in the end, what does it bring other than chaos? And then what? Yes, there's a point made, and I'm not saying it's not important. It's important to make those points, but the liberation at the end is inner. It's inside of us. And Jupiter is going to be also retrograding. And all that we have initiated in this past month is going to be reviewed again. And again, our beliefs might be again in question, because when Jupiter is tied to our beliefs, and we might be questioning again what we believe and if what we're doing is right, or what is right. And might doesn't necessarily make right. It's more like, what do we believe? And there might be desires to self-express that are very prominent, especially because the sun will have entered Leo. And when the sun is in Leo, we want to be seen. We want to be heard. Like, listen to me, And when we're being oppressed, well, you do the math, right? And this is a perfect cooking pot for our revolution, I'm saying. And or it might be an internal revolution. We have Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto retrograding, which is like a whole review of maybe the past at least 6 months it's going to come back into review. And I don't know, and the end at the beginning of August, and we'll talk about this next month, but this is really relevant right now. Uranus is going to be touching the North Node with Mars, and in that square to Saturn. So could it mean that there is a big crash in the market? You know, could it be that they introduce a new currency suddenly? Could it be that I don't know, there is prices of gas go like ridiculously up, like something's cooking that will want to liberate us, but it might come at a price. It might come with a loss. It might come with discomfort, because Uranus doesn't make anything very comfortable. It shakes the ground, and then you deal with it. And then once the ground has been shaken, and blah, you end with what happened, and then you're at the end of it. That's it. That you have no choice. You're in the new, and you have no choice. So in order not to feel this as traumatic, start now. Start at the beginning and start preparing. We already gave you the whole thing of what you can do. Make alliances, heal the wounds of your family, come together. You know, all of this is called preparation. And as a closure to this month, yes, create the reality you want, move towards liberation and sovereignty in yourself with the people around you, and start leaving behind the needs to be right. Might is right. I have to do it this way. It's my way or the highway. All of that. Done, gone, passe, flush. And you'll see that even through these crises, you might be just like thriving. And that's what we all want, don't we?
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tatiana. It's very beautiful reading this month, even though sounds like a lot is happening. It also, I feel like, came through in such a way that brought a central piece to it, like going in and like, I feel like grounding, pulling it all together, bringing it full circle. Thank you. I feel like you was able to deliver all of that. And so really quick, I just have a quick card for everyone that we pulled from the Twin Flame Ascension Oracle deck, which, by the way, I want to thank, and Tatiana wants to thank everyone for the gold award it received at the INETS trade show in Denver. Did win a gold award. So we thank you so much for your love and support. And you can make sure to connect below and above for the card deck, to get your card deck ordered. And so we pulled a card deck for this reading. Pulled a card from the deck. Mystical messages and follow the signs. So this, to me, like when we talked about, and I'm just kind of channeling this in at this moment, but this has many aspects to it. This has many points to it. This has many directions to it. This has so much of the could be dependent on perspective, very scattered and all over the place. But on the flip side, what we just said about bringing it to a central point to pull all of those aspects together into the wholeness, the oneness, the completeness. And when it says follow the signs and the mystical messages, what it feels like that connects to in this particular month and reading is ourself. Like I said, follow our own intuition, follow our own direction, take a look at all of our many aspects and accept them, love them, stop separating from them and bring them back and call them in and create the wholeness and completeness within. And that will keep you grounded, centered, and connected to a higher version of yourself, the new version of yourself. And that's what this whole journey is about moving and transitioning from this old version of ourselves into a new version of ourselves. And we aren't just now learning who that person is, or learning to connect to that person, or learning to create that person would be even a better way to put it, because we're still evolving and creating at a higher level. So our highest greatness has not even came into form yet. And we don't even know who that person is yet. But stay open, explore, navigate, and call in that higher version of yourself. And that will keep you moving in a direction of feeling that sense of home during this time and that completeness. So again, thank you all for joining us for this session for this month. Make sure to check out all the links below and how you can get plugged into Tatiana and a evolutionary astrology reading with her. And we send you so much love, so much light, and so much liberation. And this is my birthday month. So I know on the end of July, being a Leo at that early part, I know that I also am on that cusp of that Cancer energy. And I say sometimes that I'm ready to go into my den. So if you're feeling that, feel called to come back home into yourself during this time. And that will always make you feel more comfortable. So we will see you in the next video. May you always face your fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Namaste.